Hello, friends. Welcome into another episode of Level Deeper. This is not going to be a new interview with a new person that I've had on the show. What it is going to be is a new interview with someone I have had on the show before. I guess more of a new conversation with someone, and that someone is my wife. The reason that my wife, Eileen, and I are having a conversation again is because, frankly, I did not have a new episode to publish. I would love to say I'm one of those podcasters that has tons of episodes recorded into the future so that if I have schedule changes or someone cancels, I can go to one of those episodes. Well, that's just not the case. I don't. I had episodes scheduled. They were not recorded this week. And so here we are, pivoting. What also happened is my wife and I sat down for 45 minutes. We had a very meaningful conversation. It was wonderful. That conversation was not recorded due to a technical issue, or more so maybe just a human error on my part. And so what has resulted and what you're about to hear is the conversation after the conversation. But what you'll find is we reflect on a few elements from our previous conversation, but at the end, and more so, we reflect on what can we learn from a situation like this. And I think you're going to enjoy hearing some of our thoughts and perspectives on what we can gain and take from some of this imperfect creation. This wasn't the episode that I envisioned, that we envisioned, and yet we still gained a lot from it. And so I think you're going to enjoy it. So here's my conversation with my wife, Eileen, and it's next on A Level Deeper. In my mind, what has gotten us here is a series of unfortunate events.
I feel your pain deeply on many levels. Deep. That was supposed to be a play on words for the title of your show, but yes, what's going on there?
For those of you listening, here is what has transpired. I, as podcast host, have, I was going to say, not learned my lesson, but I don't know if there is a lesson to learn, because I think that there is something maybe valuable in the spontaneity of things. I have not learned my lesson in that I have not recorded episodes into the future. So this week I had 2 podcasts that were scheduled on the calendar that were going to be releases for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those podcasts had to be rescheduled. Then I had 0 podcasts scheduled for this week. No problem. I have a supportive wife.
Hi, my name's Eileen.
Who helps keep me capable.
Yep.
Of the things that are important to me and the things that I've committed to doing. So, me and capable wife.
You got this. That makes sense.
We sit down together in our van. We record a very meaningful 45-minute conversation. You're noticing I'm talking about this conversation in past tense, and you're not actually, the listener, you are not hearing this conversation in this moment. That is because we had a great conversation that was not recorded.
Yeah. It didn't record. And what did you say at the end of that episode that was not recorded?
Well, I said that it was a lesson for me in this whole process of starting the show, and in that conversation that no one will ever get to hear.
No, cool, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's also quite frustrating in the moment.
I know you're
as we're sitting here on a Monday night. We were talking about, it was a good experience. In that conversation, you were essentially interviewing me. You took the interviewer role. I took the interviewee role. And that was a different experience for me. I have found a level of comfort, I think, in being the question asker.
Why?
It's a role that I am comfortable playing. I like playing it. I see a lot of value in having a conversation with someone because I believe that from anyone that I sit across from, that I talk to, whether it's in person or virtually, someone else's story and perspective and experiences can help me on my life's journey. I think everyone has something to share that we can learn from, even if it's just learning about someone else or how they view things differently or what they've experienced and what that's taught them and why they think the way they think and why they act the way that they act. In conversations like the one that you and I just had that aren't recorded, I found in my life that I gain a lot of value from those conversations. It also is a comfortable position for me to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I like asking questions. So it might make some people uncomfortable thinking about like, oh my gosh, I have to show up to this podcast or this conversation and I'm responsible to ask all of the questions and maneuver through an hour of conversation.
You love that.
But it's become something I guess I really enjoy, and I don't find I have to put too much I put a lot of intentional effort into it, but also almost no effort into it.
That's how I feel with leading meditations.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's something that comes natural to you. Right?
Yeah, I think so. So I really just lean into being curious and listening, which are two of what I feel like are my strong suits. And I allow that to be what leads those conversations. Anyway, playing that role is comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing it. I'm familiar with it. And so in this conversation that was not recorded, I was being interviewed, and we were reflecting on how I think that was a really good experience for me, given the nature of this show, is that I don't give my guests a set of questions that I'm going to ask them. I don't tell them, here are the topics that I plan to talk about with you. It's just kind of like, hey, come join me on the show, and we're going to talk about your life and your story and your experiences. And I'm really grateful that people are willing to step into that vessel with me, this very vague, open vessel that I've created. And so I think it was a really valuable experience for me to then be interviewed by you.
I'm going to interview you right now again. We can still kind of get that vibe, get that energy going again. What do you think you're going to learn from this experience of the podcast not being recorded and just how you feel right now and just this whole last couple hours? How can you maybe start to process it or make sense of it?
Number one, I'm going to do my best to verify that my technology is working before I record, which I always do.
I know.
So for some reason, this slipped by, but that's the simple thing. Now, what am I taking from this? In our conversation that was not recorded.
How many times have you said that?
It still hurts.
I know.
We were talking about, and I was reflecting on success for the show. And you asked me, what does success look like? So to bring people back into that answer on a sort of micro level, I believe that success for this show, success happens when I sit down with another individual and I learn about them. And I hear their story. I hear those perspectives that I talked about. I hear their experiences. Success is when I create a space for someone to share themselves. And I think that in itself is a very meaningful interaction. And I'll often say to my guests, whether it's in the actual recording or in the episode or once we finish recording afterward, I will often say to them, completely lost my train of thought.
You did, honey? That's okay.
I will. Okay. I'm back.
You got it? Okay. That is amazing how the mind does that, and it's so human. Okay, you're back.
I will often say to them, I just did it again.
Maybe something about...
I will often say to them that even if we never share this conversation, even if no one hears it, just the fact that we sat down, we had this conversation, we had this interaction, we held this space together for 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, it feels like I have done something meaningful today.
And I bet they say...
And they'll say, me too.
Yeah.
So, as I look at us sitting down for 45 minutes and recognizing that we were having a meaningful conversation, and we get to talk about our experiences of being home for 5 months back in Michigan like we were not planned, and what that has been like and how it has felt. Talking about this show and this podcast and talking about some of the things that are next for us. I guess it's a reminder that that conversation still happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was not recorded, but you and I still sat down in this exact same space that we are now, which is in the back of our van in your parents' cul-de-sac in Brighton, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a conversation and we recorded it and we shared that space together for 45 minutes. And so I guess if I revisit that first definition of success, then we succeeded.
Mm-hmm. We did.
A space was created for us to share and to have a discussion and to go a level deeper into some of our life experience. So, that's easy to say. It's hard to feel. I feel disappointed and frustrated that people can't hear the conversation that we had, and they're hearing us talk about the conversation that we had. But we're also saying some new things now.
Yeah, we're going to say some new things now. And I hate to break it to y'all, but we have a lot of great conversations, this guy, Chad and I, and they don't get to hear all of them. And I feel like it was a success. It was meaningful. And I felt more connected to you. And I think that's something too we talked about is a lot of people don't feel that, or they don't actually take the time to sit down with the people they love and get really curious and sit with each other and say how they feel and reflect together because we're so busy, or there's better things to do. Or I feel like, you probably had a feeling, but you knew I wasn't going to let it fly. You probably thought, let's just not record it. It's fine.
Yeah, I was going to just record a little 2-minute message that was like, well, we tried. It didn't work.
Nope.
See you next week.
No, here we are. So let's share, though. I think we can still talk a little bit about what we talked about and just build on that. But when we first recorded a podcast together, we were in a very different place. And now we're here. And now we're getting ready to leave. How do you feel?
So last time we recorded a conversation together, we were sitting in pretty much the middle of the woods. We were just north of White Horse in the Yukon Territory. We were coming back from Alaska. It's funny to think about that time because that was the end of a huge adventure. It was the end of us being on the road for over a full year. We did not come back to Michigan, which is where we're both from. We did not come back once during, it was over a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, we covered tons of states. We went so many places. We went up the whole West Coast. We went all the way over to Key West. We went back to the West Coast. We went all the way north. We went up to Alaska, back to Alaska. And so just to think about the last time that we recorded, we were ending that journey at that time. We were making our way back to Michigan. And within probably about 2 weeks of us recording that first episode together, we came back to Michigan. As we sit here today, Monday, February 26th, 2024, we have not left Michigan since we got back 6-ish months ago. And, but we are about to leave again and start a new journey. So I guess it's funny to reflect and look back on, we were ending a journey, ending some form of a chapter last time we recorded, and now we're about to start a new one.
How do you feel about getting back on the road?
I'm very excited. It is a life on the road is what we have sort of come to find to be a comfortable and familiar lifestyle for us. We've come to just really enjoy it. Not that it's perfect. Not that it's easy. In fact, it's very challenging. I think although I'm very excited to get back on the road, there's also some nerves just about, I mean, we have many instances of doing it, but it's kind of like, can we solve all of the different problems? And what if we run into new problems? And so I try not to think about all of that stuff too much, because it's just, you cross that bridge when you get there and you take things one at a time.
Yeah.
But there's very much a level of excitement. I'm ready to get back on the road. I'm ready to adventure. I'm ready to be new places, see new things, do new things, create new memories and experiences together.
Break in our hiking shoes.
Break in our new hiking shoes.
Some new shoes. We gotta put some miles on those babies.
Break those in. And yeah, there's some nerves to it as well. It's kind of like the first time we left. It's just life on the road is different. There's different things you have to think about every single day, and different problems that you have to solve. There's little inconveniences that you're not used to in day-to-day normal life.
Like what? What's inconvenient?
Like we have finite amounts of water, and we don't have unlimited power, and we have to be very intentional about our internet and where we get it and how that works and where we sleep. And there's all these decisions that we have to make. And
you can't just flush a toilet.
Yeah, our bathroom. And
so why do we do van life, Chad?
Why do we do van life? Because it's very meaningful. Because we are creating memories and we are experiencing things that are priceless. Because not every day is guaranteed, and life can be short. And so why wait to pursue the things that we think that we're going to value in life? And so we, early on in our relationship and in our marriage, traveling, adventuring, experiencing new things, creating some of these memories we're talking about, we defined as really important to our relationship. And so we're not waiting to do those things. Here we are, a couple people often joke, we're a couple of newlyweds. And the first thing we did after we got married was we built a van and moved into a van and went and started traveling.
It's been great.
So
it really has.
That's why we do it, right? Why do you do
it? I do it because wherever you go, I go. Just kidding. I mean, that's part of it. And really, though, I feel so lucky that you also want to do this, which feels crazy. And someone once said that to me, it's very unique that you have someone that also wants to do van life and live that whole lifestyle. So I didn't grow up traveling. And so I think that's what's so intriguing about it for me, is just being able to see the country and do things I thought I couldn't do. Those 20-mile hikes, rock climbing, going in a small plane. I mean, it's just, you're constantly being asked to do something that's uncomfortable. And little things too, right? In the van, doing all those uncomfortable things to get through the day. And so it actually brings a lot of just gratitude and presence and purpose and meaning, I feel like, into our life. So, and it helps us slow down because we do get to choose where we want to be. So that's why I like it. Did any of that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think the slowing down element especially has been, I think, really, really valuable. Despite all the different things that we have to figure out and do on a daily basis, there's also been a lot of very slow moments. Slow moments meaning sitting out on a couple of chairs out in Utah or the middle of Alaska or somewhere in Canada, and just being and taking in the moment that we're experiencing together. Or in the morning, making coffee and sitting outside and reading. I do feel like we've intentionally manufactured more of those slow moments when we are living in the van.
Yeah.
And I almost find them harder to create when we're not living in the van. Have you found that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just going to ask you, do you feel like we've had a slow 5 months here? Do you feel like our lives have been busier than ever or what?
Yeah, I don't feel like it's been slow in that meaning or in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like naturally, as we've been back, there's just been more going on. And that's not inherently a bad thing. More seeing people that we love, which is a good thing.
Right.
More of some activities that we love. More, yeah. But it's been more. It's been a faster pace of life, a faster lifestyle, which I think is one of the maybe what feels like a big difference between when we're traveling in the van versus when we're not. I'm not sure. There's just something that it feels like the pace has to be quicker when we're not in the van and we're in normal life.
I agree.
I don't know if that's just kind of an internal, dialogue thing or an internal pressure, or there's something about the community or something externally that drives it. But I don't feel like life has been as slow.
Well, and I think you said it just feels like more. And I think when we're in the van, life feels like less. And at the same time, it's more because I just feel so content with less, with the simplicity of opening up the door and just sitting there with my coffee and you by my side. Now, we can't do that all the time. Sometimes we're in a parking lot, but if we are in a beautiful space, there's just, I don't know, I feel like more of your day can be filled with that versus maybe when we're back here, you can still have moments like that. But maybe it's a little bit harder to find or to make that time for. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like you have to be a lot more intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems almost easier not to be. But that less is more principle is interesting because I do feel like it sort of applies to maybe as we're finding the pace of life as well. Less pace in life can be more, as far as it can lead to more quieter, meaningful moments.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to sound like we're comparing or thinking that Michigan has been so negative being back home. And at the same time, I think it's really cool that we've created a life in the van that we truly love and feel our best in. And that's just it. And I think that's hard because both you and I are people pleasers too, and we want to sort of make everyone happy, and I don't know. But I think this has been one of the best things we've done for ourselves and each other and our relationship too. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
now what? Am I the host?
I think you might be.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about how it's felt though being home.
I'm laughing because this was a question in the
No,
previous conversation.
You're not supposed to say anything. Okay, you're so real and honest. I mean, I really like what you shared. Do we not want to go that route? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've often felt so. There's been one episode of this podcast that has not aired.
What are you talking about?
I recorded a episode with someone.
Oh.
And in communicating with that individual afterward, it was agreed upon that the episode would not air.
Yes.
And during that process, it was talked about, could we re-record the conversation?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
And my feeling was, in my gut, it was just like, you know what? I don't think I want to do that because I don't feel like we can recreate some of, that initial space that was created together and some of that initial conversation. And then you're kind of trying to edit yourself or compare to the conversation that was just had. And so ultimately we just sort of left it as, it's okay that we had that conversation, and it's not gonna air. I guess I'm bringing that up because I'm finding it is difficult to re-record and try to recreate a similar conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that question. Yeah, I take that back.
Well, so it's just it's interesting as we're sitting here again rehashing some of the same things. It's difficult to do that again, and you just think back to, well, we already kind of talked about that, and in some ways I think it describes the beauty of entering that space for the first time unknown and going into a conversation. And maybe that's what we're meant to take away from an experience like this is it's just affirming and sort of relearning that, yeah, there is something really special about that. And it's okay. We don't have to try to recreate what was, even though it's very difficult not to.
I agree with you. Let's let it go, for sure. And what do you think that says about you, though? Right when I asked that question, what kind of went through your mind, or I feel like you had almost a reaction to it in a way, or just immediately you felt,
I don't know. I was just going to go try to recap essentially what I said before. And I guess I just found myself being like, what's the point of that? And like, where is that going to go? And then internally, I'm just going to do this comparison into what was and what was said. And
yeah,
I guess in that moment, it didn't make sense to me to do that. So I pivoted.
I'm glad
to tell that story, and to, again, I think there just could be still something valuable in this whole experience, and some of that might just be some reflections and some takeaways based on what has happened. And sometimes that's what we're sort of left with after experiences is moments to just think about and reflect on and see, well, what can I take from this and apply to my life forward. And so maybe that's one of the things that we learned from this whole experience.
Well, and it's funny how, that I remember now that conversation you had with that guest, and then it was decided to not post the episode. And it's almost like, okay, you finally got confirmation that was a right decision for you to say, I don't know exactly what went down, to say no to re-recording it. and doing it again because you're such a humble guy. But what I was trying to get you, did I say that right? Humble? Did it come out right? You're such a humble guy. I was trying to get you to say that really showcased your response to me asking that question again. It really showcased your desire to be authentic. I think that's really cool and important. And what makes this show really meaningful is that you are genuinely curious, asking questions. You are a really, really good listener on and off the mic. And I think it means a lot that you want to be authentic. And yep, I think that's it. That's the end of my thought.
No, I mean, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And I think with this show, I don't know. I just wanted to represent life in some ways. And life has ups and downs and unpredictable things happen. And life isn't this always, this big rehearsed and planned thing. Life isn't always perfect. So, yeah, we're sitting here in the back of our van. We're just kind of laying around chatting. I'm feeling defeated and disappointed because the technology didn't work and we had a great conversation and it didn't record.
I'm feeling a little hungry.
We're feeling hungry. We probably got to wrap this up and go back inside. And so I guess I just see value in keeping it real with people and sharing, this is the process. This is what it looks like. There's sometimes when I sit down with someone and I have an incredible conversation and we record it and it's captured and it's able to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times when that doesn't happen. And it's all part of the process. It's all meaningful. There's things that we can learn from all of it. And so I guess I want this to represent and I want to share with people. This is what it's like. These are some of the ups and downs that I go through and that we go through in hopes that, maybe it can allow people to embrace some of their own journey and embrace some of these imperfections of their journey as I'm trying to do with mine.
Yeah.
And it's probably a reminder to me because I need it right now, and maybe a reminder to all of us that even in the things that we may view as imperfect or the things that we might view as failures or mistakes or whatever it may be, there can still be something beautiful created. And maybe one person hears this and takes something beneficial from it. And if that's the case, then that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been focused a lot on this idea of surrendering my control of the outputs of situations. So I can control my input. I can control what's put into it. And I can't always control what happens after that. And so this feels like many lessons in one, but I guess ultimately at the end of the day, I want to be real with people. I do want to be authentic with people. This is the process of the show. This is the process of life. And it's all okay. It's all welcome. It's all part of this beautiful thing that we have unfolding in our life journey.
I love that. That was really beautifully said. And I'm wondering if what do you think future Chad would say to you right now?
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace all of this and your whatever the future holds will be a culmination of many small actions and of consistently doing things that are important to you and that you believe in and consistently creating something.
Yep.
Even if that thing isn't perfect. And that's what's going to make the difference in the end.
Mm-hmm. I really do think that the people that simply keep going are the ones that are successful, whatever that means to them. And your consistency is key. So this is going to be posted tomorrow. We're going to put it out there and maybe we'll do this thing again. We will do this thing again, right?
Yeah. I think we will, probably because it's likely that I'll run into another week where I don't have an episode to release. So then it'll be Monday night again, and I'll say to Eileen, we need to go sit in the van at 8 p.m. 6 hours before this episode comes out and go record something new. And we'll do it again, and it'll be great.
If we do it again, then that's tradition. And then we'll have to do it a couple more times. But you want to give the people a little recap or just a little insight on where we're going?
Yes. So here is what the next couple of weeks or few months looks like for Eileen and I, in case you are wondering, keeping up with some of our travels. We are leaving Michigan in the next couple of weeks. We're going to start heading south. We're going to make our way through Nashville. We're going to dip into Florida for a little while. We have some friends in the Sedona, Arizona area, so we are going to go visit them. Then from there, we've got about 2 months to travel around out west. We're going to make a stop in Utah, and then weather depending, we'll see where we head from there. But ultimately, this summer, come June 1st or so, we are headed back to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So we are making the trek back to Alaska. We're planning on spending 2.5, 3 months in Alaska this summer and just soaking up what an incredible place that is. Taking our time and going slowly, enjoying all the things. And then from there, we don't know.
Who knows?
But that's the fun. So that's where we are headed next. If you want to follow us in our van travels and adventures, you can do that on Instagram at The Miles Van Life. That account is dedicated to posting about the places that we go and some of our life and lifestyle living in the van. So if you want to follow along there, that's where you can find us.
You'll find lots of Sadie on there too, our dog Sadie. She gets to experience van life with us and has a riot, so we like to share her. And Chad, people want to find you. How can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Chad M. Miles is my personal account. You can find me there. We'd love to hear any of your thoughts about the show, and you can connect with some other listeners who listen to the show as well. So you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, I think this was still a great conversation. Do you feel a little bit better?
I feel better. I feel this is better than me just recording a 2-minute thing and saying, well, sorry, folks, nothing came out of this. I appreciate you sitting down with me twice this evening to record a conversation. I appreciate you helping reflect on what we can take from this. I think that's important. I appreciate you always holding me capable of creating and putting something out there. So I feel like good was still done.
Yes.
This evening.
It was.
There's still things we can learn from this, so
I will sit down and have conversations with you for the rest of my life, Chad.
All right, deal.
Okay. Love you.
All right. I love you too. And folks, thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you in future weeks on future Tuesdays. Back with some new interviews coming next week. See you soon.